So I get out of the car, I ran over, she gave me a big hug. She said, get him out, get in there, and fix this. She didn't even need to tell me what to fix, because we all know the things that Trudeau has broken. Life costs more. Work doesn't pay. Housing costs have doubled. Crime, chaos, drugs, and disorder reign in our streets. And he divides to distract from all that he broke. And yesterday, he admitted that his government is broken by firing 7 of his ministers, right? Well, he forgot to fire the one person with costs raging out of control, crime on the rise, corruption in his government. He now admits that the Liberal ship is sinking, but when that happens, you don't fire the crew, you fire the captain, right? Thanks to the great Eric Member of Parliament for Kenora, he has a stronger voice for Northern Ontario than all the NDP Liberal Coalition MPs combined, doesn't he? Never stops door knocking. Door knocks late into the night, actually. He's just addicted to it. The other night, he was out door knocking in Kenora, and his team said, Eric, it's 9:45, man. You gotta knock it off. He said, one more door, one more door. Lights were all off. He went up anyway. He knocks on the door. All of a sudden, baby's crying. Yeah. 14-year-old girl opened the door. She said, I have triplet sisters who are 6 months old. You just woke them up. And my father, he's a championship boxer. He's going to be down in a minute to have a word with you. So Eric said, that won't be necessary. Just tell him that his local Liberal candidate dropped by to say hello. He's quick. Eric, when we got to Kenora, he said, you have to go visit with our seniors. They built this country. I said, well, where are we going to go? He said, a senior's home. I said, Eric, they're not going to want to see a politician from Ottawa. He said, no, you're going to be a big star. So I walked up to a lady and I said, do you know who I am? She said, no, but if you ask the nurse, she'll tell you who you are. It's good to be made humble, right, Eric? Because we need some more humility from our leaders. Minister actually means servant, and Prime Minister means first servant. We need a Prime Minister who understands that he works for the people and not the other way around. That's right, yes. That's the amazing thing about Canada. You know, I was born to a teenage mother, put me up for adoption, to 2 school teachers. But they taught me that in this country, it didn't matter where I came from. It mattered where I was going. It didn't matter who I knew. It mattered what I could do, and that's the country my wife came to as a refugee. It's the country we want for our kids and yours. But it's not the country we see when we look around us today. After 8 years of Trudeau, life costs more, work doesn't pay, housing costs have doubled, crime and chaos is in our streets. But the good news is, Canada was not like this before Justin Trudeau, and it won't be like this after he's gone. Sense of the common people. We're going to make common sense common again, and in the policies that we put forward to make life better, we're going to make Canada work for the people who do the work. And it starts by bringing home lower prices again. And we have a very clear plan and a very strong difference between us and the Liberal NDP coalition. To start with, a Pierre Poilievre-led government will axe the carbon tax to bring home affordable gas, heat, and groceries. This is a tax that goes after people for doing things they have no choice but to do. Here in the north, people have to heat their homes. They have to drive long distances. And the food often comes from faraway places. You tax the farmer who makes the food, and the trucker who ships the food, then you tax all the people who buy the food. I'll tell you the story of Suntech tomatoes in Manotick. Anybody want to know where Manotick is? south of Ottawa. Suntech tomatoes, the little miracles of Manotick. They're grown in a greenhouse, but they have to release CO2 into that greenhouse to encourage faster growth. Trudeau taxes that CO2. Even though it doesn't go into the atmosphere, it goes into the plant life. Apparently he missed that day in science class. So the consequence is that it's more expensive to buy a Manotick tomato in Manotick than a Mexican tomato in Manotick. The price signal is for the consumer to buy the tomato that had to be transported by train and truck all across North America, burning fossil fuels and emitting greenhouse gases. Not only that, Trudeau wants to punish our farmers with new fertilizer bans that will reduce the output per acre, meaning they have to drive their tractors and combines over longer distances to harvest the same crop at a higher price, which means our consumers will be forced to buy more food from abroad. Is there any doubt why our food prices have gone up well over 20% in the last 2 years alone? When you attack our farmers, you attack everybody who eats food. A poilievre government will reverse the tax on farmers, get rid of these mandates, make it easier for farmers to produce more here so that we can feed our nation affordably and be a nation that stands on its own 2 feet. Anybody got a quarter you can lend me? Quarter? No,
we got taxed away.
We're going to talk a little about inflation. This gentleman's got a quarter. Yeah. This is Dean Stinson. I asked for a quarter, he gave me $1. What a guy. Listen, I promise I'll pay you back. I'm not everyone, okay? Thank you very much, Dean, for being here. I'm going to pay you this back, but I want to just talk a moment about I write you all the time, that's right. Thank you for writing me back. But listen, I don't need the $1 for the stamp to send the letters. We send it by email now. But listen, why do we have so much crazy inflation? Because in the last 3 years, we used to have, 3 years ago in Canada, we had $1.8 trillion in our economy. That number has gone up to $2.4 trillion. Now, you might think, well, we must be $600 billion richer. No. Our money supply has grown by 32%. But the goods and services that money buys has grown by 4%. And in other words, the money is growing 8 times faster than the stuff money buys. When you got 10 loaves of bread and $10, it's $1 a loaf. You double the number of dollars to 20, but you still have 10 loaves of bread. Now it's $2 a loaf, right? Creating more cash doesn't make us more wealthy. All it does is finance the debt. Trudeau has doubled our national debt in just 8 years, adding more debt than all other prime ministers combined. To finance this, he's had the central bank create cash, literally print money. The fastest money creation in over 40 years, and what do you know? The fastest inflation in over 40 years. When you create more of these without creating more of what these things buy, these things become less valuable. And you know, before long, this will be worth a quarter if we keep these inflationary policies growing. It's not me who says this. Chrystia Freeland admitted that printing money and running deficits causes inflation right before she introduced yet another budget with $60 billion of inflationary spending. My friends, we're gonna start to do, well, let's give this wonderful gentleman his $1 back. It's probably worth a little bit less because of the inflation while I was talking, but I'll make it up to you. But here's the plan, my friends. We're going to get to the root of the problem. We cannot grow spending at this outrageous rate. We're going to bring in a dollar for dollar law. Every new dollar of government spending we introduce will have to be met with a dollar of savings to pay for it, right? When we get a dollar, we give it back. It's how a single mother raises her family. She wants to build a new patio. She might take a pass on the vacation, or she might find a bargain on the vacation and the patio to bring both in under budget. We've done this in the common sense governments in the past. I was the Minister of Social Development, and the Canadian National Institute for the Blind said, you're sending out these audiobooks to our members on CDs. With all that plastic and postage, it's very expensive. We have a new technology that you could send the books to our visually impaired readers by an email. And we'd like you to sign a deal with all the other English-speaking countries so that they can share with us all of the audiobooks they have, and we share all of the audiobooks we have, so that blind people in all of the English-speaking world could have 5 times as many books delivered more quickly at 80% less cost to the taxpayer who's funding it all, which proves you can actually do more with less if you have politicians and bureaucrats who are on the hunt for ways to better ways to do things, and that's what the dollar for dollar law will do. It will get more benefit for a lower price. You've been pinching your pennies and your dollars long enough. It's time the government did the same. Yeah. We're going to get rid of the obvious waste. The $54 million Arrive Can app, gone. The $200 million that Trudeau gave to the Asian Infrastructure Bank, a China-backed infrastructure bank to build pipelines in that part of the world. We're going to stop giving money away to foreign dictators, bring that money home, and build pipelines here. Instead of creating more cash, we'll create more of what cash buys. Imagine if instead of creating that extra, going from $10 to $20, we went 10 to 20 loaves of bread. We'd have more bread for fewer dollars, which equals lower prices. So we will grow more food, build more homes, and produce more energy here in Canada. How are we going to do it? Let's start with our resources. Canada is a resource-based economy. But that resource economy is under attack by hard-left, woke ideologues that are determined to destroy the livelihoods of our workers. Justin Trudeau's environment minister is against not just oil and gas, he's against forestry, nuclear, natural gas, even tidal power, wave-generated power. They're against all industry in this country. A poilievre-led government will reverse this insanity. We know that in the Sault, people rely directly and indirectly on our resource sector. Today, I was just at Tenaris, a company that employs 700 people in the Sault, making pipelines, making the pipes through which the energy passes, right? They turn that steel into beautiful pipes. It's a sophisticated workforce that they have. They're incredibly brilliant people. Trudeau's killed 2 pipelines. And instead, we're bringing in 130,000 of barrels of overseas oil every day. He's blocked 15 natural gas liquefaction plants whose parts could have been made right here in the Sault. Instead, the Americans are getting it. They built 7 liquefaction plants. The Qataris are getting it. They doubled their production. The Germans built an import terminal for natural gas in 194 days. And in 8 years, we haven't been able to get an export plant built. We have the perfect place to do it. We have the shortest shipping distances to Europe and the shortest shipping distances to Asia from North America. We have clean hydroelectricity to liquefy that gas. And by the way, how do you liquefy gas?
Compression.
You cool it down. And what do we have in Canada? Cold weather. In fact, I'm told it was so cold in winter in the Sault when Justin Trudeau was here, he was seen with his hands in his own pockets. And then we have the Ring of Fire. We've been talking about this Ring of Fire for 15 years. I asked a First Nations leader who supports the project, are shovels yet in the ground? He said, just snow shovels. Because it takes 25 years to get a mine approved. So when you see those electric cars drive by, those batteries, where are they refined? In China, burning coal. What does it do to the environment? To burn more coal in China so that we can import those batteries from them. We have the lithium here, the 6th biggest supply. We don't mine a single tablespoon. So here's my common sense plan. We'll repeal the Anti-Energy and Resource Law, C-69. We'll build Canadian pipelines with Canadian steel to take Canadian energy to Canadian customers. We'll dig the mines of the minerals of the future and we'll liquefy liquefaction plants in Canada, again, with parts made right here in the Soo, will cool that gas down to minus 161 degrees, ship it to Asia to shut down dirty coal-fired plants there, ship it to Europe to break European dependence on Putin and turn dollars for dictators into paychecks for our people right here in the Soo.
Home! Bring it home! Bring it home! Bring it home!
And we're going to bring home more powerful paychecks. It doesn't pay to work in this country. You know, that waitress who I mentioned earlier, I talked to her in the street. I don't know her personal story, but let's say that she has 3 kids. And let's say she earns $60,000. 25 bucks an hour. If she earns an extra dollar, she loses 80 cents in clawbacks and taxes. Clawbacks of her child benefit, income tax, payroll tax, gas tax to work. So earning 25 bucks an hour, she loses 20. She's now actually earning $5 an hour, well below the minimum wage, because if she makes it, Trudeau takes it. A poilievre government is going to reform the clawbacks and cut income taxes so that she and you bring home more of each dollar you earn, and hard work once again pays off for our people. And speaking of hard work paying off, what about our hard-working doctors and nurses who are blocked from working in our medical system? While we have these incredible wait lines, you know, it boils my blood thinking how many doctors can't work in this country while I'm sitting in a waiting room with my little girl who has a migraine headache. The most obvious and simple way to bring doctors and nurses back is to get rid of these ridiculous mandates. That's for one, right? We have 20,000 immigrant doctors and 32,000 immigrant nurses banned from doing their jobs because there's no direct way to prove whether they are qualified to work in our system. Anybody here have a red seal for the trades?
Yep.
Right. Give them a round of applause. These are the people who do this. Okay. What's your red seal in?
I'm a licensed mechanic.
Licensed mechanic. So with that red seal, can you work everywhere in Canada?
I worked in 4 provinces.
4 provinces. So he's able to work in 4 provinces. Our professionals can't do the same thing because we don't have a national licensing standard like the Red Seal in the profession. So here's my common sense plan. We're going to bring in a blue seal for the professions so that they can write a test, and within 60 days, those doctors and nurses can get working, serving patients, earning powerful paychecks, and we can have a better healthcare system, a stronger economy for everyone. And did your company transport you, or did you have to get yourself to your jobs?
Canadian Armed Forces in the Navy.
Oh, he's a service member, even better. Now, if you were in the private sector working as a tradesman, though, going from, say, Timmins to Fort Mac to the Newfoundland offshore oil and gas site, he would have to pay his own transportation costs and would not be able to write off any of those costs, even though a CEO flying around in a private jet can write off the jet. It's outrageous. That's why conservatives have the Tax Fairness for Traveling Trades Workers Act that will allow our workers who go from one place to another write off the full cost of accommodation, food, and travel. They can write off, that's the principle of our tax system. You write off the cost it takes to earn the money. We should give fairness toward the people who move stuff, build stuff, and fix stuff, and tax fairness for our hard workers. The purpose here is to bring home more powerful paychecks. We don't need more government checks. We've seen where that leads, just more inflation. We need is more powerful paychecks that can support our economy and create more of what cash buys. We want you to bring home that paycheck, and we want that home to be affordable. Right now, Canada's housing costs are among the worst in the world. After 8 years of Trudeau, rent has doubled, mortgage payments have doubled, and the needed down payment has doubled. In border towns, you can see on the American side of the border Homes are often 50% cheaper
Yes, they are.
than they are on the Canadian side.
Yep.
In fact, our housing is between 50 and 75% more expensive in Canada than it is in the United States of America. It wasn't always like this. 8 years ago, you could make, the average Canadian could pay the average mortgage payment with about 35 to 40% of his paycheck. Now it takes almost 70% of the paycheck, which is mathematically impossible. It's why after 8 years of Trudeau, 9 in 10 young people have given up on ever affording a home. It makes no sense. We have the second biggest land mass on planet Earth, and yet we can't find a way to house all of our people. Do you know that last year we built fewer houses than we did in 1972? In 1972, we had 22 million people in Canada. Last year, we had almost 40 million. In 1972, we brought in about 200,000 new Canadians. Last year, we brought in 865,000 new Canadians. We were building one home for every newcomer. Now we're building one home for every 4 newcomers. And it's not their fault. It's the local bureaucracies, the government gatekeepers that are blocking the construction. We could be building vastly more homes if you could get a permit to build anything in Canada. We have the second slowest permits in the OECD. In fact, the C.D. Howe Institute studied the difference between the cost of labor, materials, land, and profit to build a house and the sale price. And the difference was $350,000 in Toronto and $1.2 million in Vancouver. That's how much the gatekeepers are costing for every person trying to buy a home. This is unacceptable. The good news is it wasn't like this before Trudeau, and it won't be like this after he's gone. My common sense plan is to link the number of dollars big cities get for infrastructure to the number of homes they allow to be built. I'll require big city governments to permit 15% more building permits per year or lose federal grants. Those that meet the 15% target will get a building bonus. Every federally funded transit station will have to be surrounded by newly built apartments so that our young people and our seniors can live right next to the bus or train, and we'll sell off 6,000 federal buildings and thousands of acres of federal land to build, and you know something, it warms my heart to think of a beautiful family rolling up in their new hall to move into their new home in the former headquarters of the CBC. I was getting an applause at that one. You know something though, we want those homes to be in safe neighborhoods. Does anyone think it's safe in Canada today? No. Unbelievable. Yeah, listen, it's everywhere though. Everywhere. These tent cities that are going up across the country. We didn't have these tent cities before Justin Trudeau. It wasn't like this before he came along with his catch and release policy. StatsCan data shows that in 2022, violent crime was up 39% since he took office. And I guarantee when the 2023 numbers come out, it's going to be far worse than that. And the cause is very simple. We have a small number of criminals, but they're very productive. In fact, they're part of, I think it's the biggest, fastest growing part of our economy right now, right? It's crime. And they do one crime after another, and the police say, forget it, drive on, Fido. Why? Because they know they'll arrest the guy, he'll laugh at them in the back seat of the car, and then he'll be out in a few hours on bail doing another crime. In Vancouver, they arrested the same 40 criminals 6,000 times. It's 140 arrests per criminal per year. And this is the direct result of C-75, the catch and release law, that gives mandatory bail to the most violent offenders. My common sense plan is to end catch and release and bring jail and not bail to repeat. And we're going to reverse Trudeau's Bill C-83, which gives the most lax prison incarceration rules for the most violent monsters. It's because of Trudeau's law that Bernardo was moved out of maximum security penitentiary. When I'm in power, or when I'm in office, we're going to pass a new prison accountability law that ensures that multiple murderers, like Paul Bernardo, stay in maximum security penitentiaries and they only leave in a box. And we're going to go after the bad guys, not the good guys. Justin Trudeau thinks the bad guys are the licensed and law-abiding hunters in the Sioux. He wants to ban your hunting rifle. He published 300 pages of firearms that he wanted to ban. Almost all of them are hunting rifles. He's banned some pellet guns. He's banned airsoft guns. He has banned paint guns. As though that is the problem. People with a license don't do crime. It's very simple. You don't stop to get a license for your firearm on the way to robbing a bank, right? The Pierre Poilievre government will reverse Trudeau's ban on our hunters and our professional sport shooters and put the money in the northern way of life in this country. We'll put the money into bolstering the borders to keep the drugs and the guns out. And speaking of drugs, we're going to stop this insane policy that has liberalized drugs in our streets. They told us that if we decriminalized crack, heroin, and cocaine, that all the drug addictions would go away. They told us. We know how these addictions started. The corrupt pharmaceutical companies. They came to Canada and the US and they pushed opioids. They said to doctors, prescribe OxyContin for every little ache and pain. It's not addictive and it won't kill you. You know what? They knew the opposite was true. They were lying and they knew they were lying. McKinsey, Justin Trudeau's favorite consulting firm, wrote the marketing plans to supercharge sales of these opioids. One distributor was giving out bonuses for every overdose they could cause. The American government has sued them and got $54 billion in damages back to pay for their recovery and treatment programs. Here in Canada, Trudeau hasn't recovered a penny. So here's my common sense plan. We're going to stop giving out tax-funded drugs. We're going to ban hard drugs. And we're going to put the money into recovery, rehab, detox, and treatment to bring the problem our loved ones drug-free. Center in Winnipeg, where they bring the young men in, give them counseling, detox, treatment. They have sweat lodges for First Nations members, exercise programs. They get them jobs, and soon they'll have a new apartment building next door so the graduates can stay there while they transition back to life, come back in for occasional counseling, and to mentor those who are entering the program. This is the cycle of recovery that will end the mess and the tent cities that we're seeing in our streets. And I said earlier that I would have a dollar-for-dollar program, didn't I? Here's my plan. I'm going to sue the big pharma companies and recover billions. And we're going to bring home our freedom to this country again. We see Justin Trudeau wants to take away freedom and create more and more power for him to impose his weird woke ideology on everybody. We know what wokeism is about. It's about defining everybody by group identity so that you can divide them, turn people against each other. It's never been so divided as it is today after 8 years of Trudeau, dividing this group against that group. We should define people by their individual character, not by their group identity, right?
Right.
Isn't that what it means to be Canadian? But he uses it as a justification to ban words and then require words. To ban what he doesn't want you to see on the internet with C11.
Right.
He's actually passed a law now that has caused news to disappear from the internet.
Yeah.
Do you ever think that would happen in Canada? If I told you that 8 years ago that a government would do that, you would have assumed I was talking about North Korea or communist China, which he admires so much. And yet, here it is in Canada with this law that allows the CRTC to manipulate the algorithms of the internet to determine what you see and say online. And then the woke movement, which he endorses, tries to shut out any teacher, principal, professor who does not align up with this group thing.
Yeah.
My plan is to get back to our Charter of Rights and Freedoms. Section 2B guarantees freedom of expression. To be or not to be? That is the question. My answer?
Yes!
Freedom of expression. Our repeal C11. Our entire university campuses full economic and academic freedom for students and faculty. And we will bring back the freest country on earth, won't we? I will ban any creation of a central bank digital currency. There will be no mandatory digital ID when I'm Prime Minister. And we will ban all of my MPs, ministers, and top government officials from any involvement in the world economic forum. Interference in our democracy, how it helped Trudeau in 2 elections and set up police stations across our country. We need Canadian police stations, not Chinese police stations in our country. We're going to bring in a foreign influence registry to make sure that we expose everyone who's paid by a foreign dictatorship to manipulate our politics. We're going to criminalize anyone who helped create these police stations. We're going to bring home control of our democracy, and we will protect our home and native land by reinvesting and rebuilding the Canadian Armed Forces. We're going to bring home the Canada that we know and love. A Canada where it doesn't matter if your name is Martin or Mohammed, Singh, Smith, or Steinberg. If you're prepared to work hard, follow the law, you can do anything you want in that Canada, where it doesn't matter whether you worship on Friday, Saturday, Sunday, or not at all. A country where we judge people by the content of their character, not the color of their skin. A Canada where any young person who graduates, gets a job, can afford a home, and start a family. A Canada that allows boundless opportunity, that brings home control of its economy and its democracy, where the government is servant and not master, and that the people reign supreme. That is our purpose, my friends. This is our country. This is our home, the common sense of the common people, united for our common home. Your home, my home, our home.
They'll be there to shake hands, to meet you, take photos, and have those opportunities. So please continue to create a line here.